Oh, it's a beautiful sight. Liberal reporters and journalists and, let's face it, teleprompter readers, that's really what they do. Forced to do something extraordinary. Forced to do something that they're not used to doing at all. Deliver the news. And it's news they didn't like. Yes, justice is coming, it appears, finally, on the Russia hoax story. We'll show you all the delicious details coming up in a second. And a big sparring match going on right now. Where's the crime? What are the crimes? Oh, what are Republicans doing? This is crazy, this Russia thing. We're going to tell you exactly what crimes are involved here. Whether people get arrested for them or not, that's a whole other story, but we'll tell you. Also, we saw an old lady embrace a young communist dude in New York, and it's making headlines because the old lady is Elizabeth Warren. Apparently, Kami Mamdani, he's now the mainstream of the Democrat Party, and it's really something to behold. Oh, and we've got an update on your Texas Democrats who are on the lam. I think they're sending Chuck Norris after them. That's right. Walker, Texas Ranger, is going to round up those Demis and throw them in jail. That's all coming up right now. We're brought to you by Birch Gold. My name's Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry. It's the first day of August in Washington, D.C. Congress is out of session. I'm wearing my vacation shirts, okay? Just deal with it.
It's the 5th day of August.
It's the 5th. What did I say it was?
The 1st.
I said it was the first week of August, didn't I?
Nope.
Did I say first day? All right. See, my mind is on vacation. But I'm here for you for the next 60 minutes. Actually, probably more. This is going to be a marathon show. We've got so much to get to. So make sure that you beat everybody to the punch and hit the like button right now. Give us a thumbs up, please. This is going to be a hell of a show, and I want to get as many people in this live chat as possible because we're actually going to break down systematically exactly the crimes involved that the grand jury might be looking at now in the Russian collusion hoax. So let's get as many people in the live chat as we can. Hit that like button, and while you're at it, subscribe, hit the bell. You know what to do. Thank you for that. It is the continued divide between Trump and the Federal Reserve putting us behind the curve again. Can the Fed take the right action at the right time, or are we going to be looking at a potential economic slowdown? And if so, is it all by design? I can't answer all of those things for you, but you know that this could mean trouble for your savings. Why don't you consider diversifying with gold through Birch Gold Group? For decades, gold has been viewed by many as a safe haven in times of economic stagnation, global uncertainty, and high inflation. Birch Gold makes it incredibly easy for you to diversify some of your savings into gold. If you have an IRA or an old 401k, you can convert that into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, or you can just buy some gold and keep it in your safe. But first, you want to get educated. Birch Gold's going to send you a free info kit on gold. Just text my name, Larry, to 989898. Again, text Larry to 989898. Consider diversifying a portion of your savings into gold, and that way, if the Fed can't stay ahead of the curve for the country, at least you can stay ahead of the curve yourself and take action for yourself. Again, text Larry to 989898. Do that today. It was amazing to see the liberal media meltdown yesterday as they actually had to deliver news to their audience that, yes, it looks like a grand jury is going to be impaneled in the Russian collusion hoax case. Their faces, their reaction, their reluctance to even deliver this news, and the way they lied to their audience and spun the news, it's actually quite dangerous. We're going to show you what they did over there in that fever swamp at MSNBC in just a second. But first, how about how Fox News delivered the information to their viewers? You know, the viewer base that's about 10 times bigger than all the other guys. This is how they did it.
Fox News can confirm that Attorney General Pam Bondi today signed an order directing an unnamed U.S. federal prosecutor to take evidence to a grand jury relating to an alleged conspiracy to tie then 2016 candidate Donald Trump to the country of Russia. Now, Fox News reviewed the one-page order just hours ago signed by the Attorney General. A source familiar with the probe confirms this as well, while a DOJ spokesperson declined to comment on this report of an investigation. Fox is told Attorney General Bondi is taking the referrals from Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, quote, very seriously. The spokesperson says that Bondi believes there is, quote, clear cause for deep concern, end quote, and a need for the next steps. Now, this move, Will, comes just a couple of weeks after the Director of National Intelligence, you see her right there, Tulsi Gabbard, sent a criminal referral to the Justice Department regarding what she says proves there was a conspiracy to undermine Trump's candidacy and later his first term in office. Now, to be clear today, there are no charges that have been filed, no indictments. This is incredibly early in the process. What we have here is taking evidence the Justice Department believes it has to a grand jury to secure an eventual indictment or indictments. We don't know exactly where the grand jury will meet. We don't know who will go before the grand jury, and that's by design, because grand juries determine if there's enough evidence to indict, and grand juries are secretive in the American legal system, so it's normal not to know all of the answers. Again, the DOJ declining on any comment regarding this investigation. But, Will, big news, this was signed by the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, today to take this evidence of an alleged conspiracy to a grand jury with the hope to get an indictment or multiple indictments.
Now, that, I got to say, was a brilliant example of delivering news and information to a viewer about a major story developing in Washington, D.C. And if you paid close attention, that Fox News reporter did not take ownership of the story, didn't cheer it on, didn't say, yeah, this is great, go get him, Pam Bondi, MAGA, MAGA, MAGA. It wasn't any of that. And in fact, when reporting the details of the story and the potential that there might be a grand jury handing down criminal indictments at some point, he, as a good journalist or reporter should do, actually spoke in third person about the reports and about the information. DNI Tulsi Gabbard said this and claimed that. And again, just delivering the information, the truth, the facts to the viewer without actually being partisan, without actually taking on some sort of vested interest in the outcome. Now contrast that with how MSNBC delivered the exact same story at the exact same time to their viewers. Watch carefully. You might see a slight difference in the delivery of the information.
A couple of weeks ago, Hallie, when really the headlines were dominated by the Jeffrey Epstein controversy, and then the president was sort of trying to change the topic very obviously, and in many different venues, was trying to bring up these unsubstantiated claims about the role he argues former President Obama had in the 2016 election and trying to suppress some information that he says would have been damaging if it had come to light. And so then you have the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, come to the White House briefing room, come to the podium and try to share some of this alleged new evidence. Well, now you have the Attorney General saying that they're going to try to take that information, which, remember, they had announced a strike force to look into what they call this new evidence and try to evaluate it to see if there could be any potential criminal indictments that they would follow. And the thing that matters here is that this is basically a grand jury investigation that's being launched, but that will happen in secret. This is behind closed doors, and it's completely unclear whether it will yield anything new. It's unclear that we will ever learn anything new about it because it could be under seal, but it really does bear repeating. This is looking into something for which there is no evidence to back it up, and it's really, it seems, a politically motivated move to keep the focus on one of the president's clear political foes and talk about basically anything else.
Like I said, you have to have a keen eye of observation for this to pick up on the very subtle, slight differences in how the news was delivered on MSNBC. And I want to point out, again, the Fox News report, it wasn't partisan. It actually wasn't taking sides. It wasn't in any way cheering this on. It literally was just delivering the facts and information to their viewers. But did you notice? Did you see? I think you did. I think if you're used to our media analysis here on this show, I think you probably picked up on it pretty clearly. Now, when you continue flipping around on MSNBC and you turn to some of the opinion-based programs, it got even worse. Here's our buddy, Joe Scarborough.
Jonathan Ramirez, this is extraordinarily stupid. It's extraordinarily stupid on so many counts. If you look at the timeline doesn't add up. It's like when Donald Trump is saying that Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton created the Epstein files. No. That all happened during Donald Trump's first term. You look at the timeline here about what happened and when it happened. Barack Obama had nothing to do with this by anybody's accounts, and especially by the Senate Republican Intelligence Committee run by Marco Rubio, who afterwards said that it was Donald Trump's 2016 campaign that created a, quote, grave counterintelligence threat to the United States of America. That was Marco Rubio, the current Secretary of State. That was every Republican on the Senate Intel Committee. After pouring through all of the documents, that's what they found. And when poor John Durham was made to sacrifice his professional career to go around the world investigating the investigators, he found nothing and ended up making a fool of himself. I mean, we even found out that the two documents that supposedly, fed into the Clinton conspiracy, that she was the one pushing this, actually was Russian disinformation. So, again, they know in the Justice Department.
Now, half of what you just saw there, if not more than half of it, was completely bogus, lies made up by Joe Scarborough, fed to him by his pals, either at the New York Times or the same pals within the intelligence community that fed him a bunch of garbage while this was taking place. But the bottom line is Joe Scarborough doesn't want any more investigation into this matter. Joe Scarborough does not want the Justice Department. A beautiful thing about a grand jury and about the Justice Department bringing up charges, or once a grand jury does hand down indictments, about having an actual trial, is that the defendants can have discovery. The defendants can make their case. The defendants can actually go through the discovery process and pull up any information that they want to do. The defendants, assuming that it's, let's say, James Comey or James Clapper or John Brennan or whoever happens to be indicted in this whole thing, can actually make the case to the general public as well as to the jury in the courtroom that, oh, no, we were doing our job. We were following obvious Russian malfeasance connected to the Trump campaign. Why wouldn't Joe Scarborough want all that evidence out? Let's do it. Are you kidding? This would be the biggest faceplant of the history of the world if Donald Trump and Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino moved down this road to indict members of the Obama administration and then have all that evidence come out that proves, they were just following the evidence because Trump really was working with the Russians. Right, Joe? Why wouldn't you want that? Why do you want us all to forget about Russia? You're singing a really different tune now, Joe. We remember you. We're quite sure you used to sing a different song.
To believe Donald Trump's version of this event.
Yeah, but I agree, Mika, with what Kenny said. Like, why keep going back to it? Why keep muddying the water when you have Marco Rubio in the Senate Intel Committee, your own Secretary of State, saying Paul Manafort in the 2016 Trump campaign posed a, quote, grave counterintelligence threat to the United States of America. You have John Durham admitting that there wasn't a Clinton conspiracy, that actually the two emails at the heart of that, even though he spent the entire report trying to prove this, in the annex, he hides it in the annex. And, the two key emails were actually most likely products of Russian disinformation. Like, move on. Get past it. The only people talking about Russia right now are Tulsi Gabbard and others.
Get past it. Nobody's talking about Russia. That was so 10 years ago when we were in charge of the media narrative, and all we could do was talk about Russia. It's an amazing turn of events. Why? Why does MSNBC not care about this anymore? You'd think they'd want to win more Pulitzer Prizes on this story. It was so successful for them in the past. Remember? In fact, you could argue that the Russian collusion hoax helped the Democrats win the majority in the 2018 midterms that then led to a completely different set of impeachment trials. Remember, they won the majority in 2018 on the backs of the Russian collusion hoax. And then when they had the power in the House, they did bring up impeachment charges, but it wasn't about Russian collusion because even they knew that it was all bull. That's okay. Nicole Wallace, look at how happy she is to deliver this news to her viewers. See, I want to pause here for a second and explain why we dwell on this. Because if, in fact, indictments are handed down by a grand jury, and if, in fact, there are criminal trials against the former FBI director or the former CIA director or the former director of the National Intelligence, if, in fact, Barack Obama, former president of the United States, is named as a conspirator or an unindicted conspirator, if Hillary Clinton is brought up on charges, the viewers of these broadcast networks, the viewers of CNN and MSNBC, are going to be dumbfounded because people like Nicole Wallace haven't actually been delivering facts to their viewers. They've been delivering theories and hopium and a bunch of fever dreams about how Trump is a Russian asset and about the entire team and about how they deserve to be all in jail because of Russian collusion and the walls are closing in and all the things that they've been feeding them. And it's dangerous, you see. By the way, it's just as dangerous as people on the right side of the political spectrum constantly feeding their audience guarantees that Obama's guilty of treason and he's going to be sent to Gitmo and Hillary's going to be frog marched out in an orange jumpsuit. You don't get that on this show either. I actually am critical of my colleagues who do that. Don't sell your audience something that you don't know is true, factual, or likely to occur. I don't want to sell you hope. I don't want to sell you some sort of fantasy that they're all going to jail. No. But they do the opposite over there. And then when facts do come out and when charges are brought, they were sure that Trump was going to jail. They were sure Trump wasn't going to be able to run for office again. They were sure that Trump was going to be a broken man. And the next thing you know, Trump is reelected. Think of how devastating that is to their audience because they're not in the business of news. I keep telling you this. They don't deliver news and information to their viewers. They paint them a story, a fiction, a fantasy. And it's great for whatever little ratings they still have, I guess. They're still trying to make the most of it. Nicole Wallace is actually one of the highest rated shows on MSNBC, such as it is. So here's how she delivered the information, such as it is, to her audience.
Some more news breaking this hour to tell you about. Attorney General Pam Bondi has ordered a grand jury investigation into the so-called Russiagate conspiracy allegations made by the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. A senior Trump administration official confirms to NBC News. That investigation was first reported by Fox News. These are unsubstantiated and largely debunked allegations by the Trump administration that former President Barack Obama and his aides in the intelligence community ordered a probe into the 2016 Trump campaign's connections to Russia to ruin his chances of becoming president. The source tells NBC News that a letter signed by Pam Bondi instructs an unnamed federal prosecutor to begin presenting evidence to secure potential indictments, although it is unclear what the charges would be and exactly who the grand jury will be targeting. We'll stay on top of that story. Thank you for letting us into your homes. We are always...
I do love that they saved it until the very last news item on the show, too. Oh, by the way, in our final minute, let's tell you this. See, I would think that would lead the show. Look at her face. I just want to revisit one aspect of this because the misinformation continues from these so-called news outlets and these teleprompter readers. Take a listen to this and tell me if you can see right through it.
That investigation was first reported by Fox News. These are unsubstantiated and largely debunked allegations by the Trump administration that former President Barack Obama and his aides in the intelligence community ordered a probe into the 2016 Trump campaign's connections to Russia to ruin his chances of becoming president.
There, right there is the lie. First of all, nothing's debunked. You know, if it were debunked, then I'm sure that they would show evidence of the debunking, and nothing's been debunked here with regard to what the grand jury is going to be hearing and what the testimony is based on the declassified documents. But that last line there, did you hear what she's telling her audience? Because understand, people who watch MSNBC all day, they don't really know this story. They haven't been living it like you and I have for the last 10 years. Listen to that last part. This is how she's telling her viewers the allegations are, what the allegations are.
2016 Trump campaign's connections to Russia to ruin his chances of becoming president.
That's not what Barack Obama ordered. Barack Obama did make an order. He ordered his intelligence community to create an assessment that found intelligence to back up the assertion that Barack Obama was making that Russia had successfully interfered with the election and that they did it to help Donald Trump. It wasn't to keep him from being president because the order came on December 6th. It was to undermine his ability to function as the president. He had already won the election. So she just lied, or she's stupid. She doesn't know the story. The allegation is not that Barack Obama ordered the investigation to prevent Donald Trump from winning the presidency. Now, that was Hillary Clinton working with James Comey ahead of time. It didn't work, but they certainly tried. No. Barack Obama's involvement, really, his key involvement, was after the fact, where he set up the intelligence community that you paid for with your tax dollars to create that assessment that falsely claimed that Russia had successfully interfered with the election, thus planting the seed in the minds of every American voter that maybe Trump didn't legitimately win the election because Russia hacked the election, they claimed. And number two, they did it because Putin is best friends with Trump. He did it to help him. There's no evidence to support either of those things. Barack Obama knew that. John Brennan knew that at the CIA. James Clapper knew that at the Office of DNI. And James Comey knew that at the FBI. They ignored that truth, and they created the intelligence community asset to support Barack Obama's desired result. That's what's at play here. Nicole Wallace just lied to reviewers. Back to the real news here, which is, yes, a federal grand jury is impaneled, and that federal grand jury is going to look at evidence brought by a prosecutor. Now, you heard in the Fox News report, we don't know who that prosecutor is. I have a hunch. Let's get to that in a second after we hear John Solomon from Just the News deliver what he hears about the location, the jurisdiction of this grand jury.
This is a major development. We told you last week that Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, had given permission for a strike force to begin. That's a very specific tool the Justice Department uses on major conspiracies. And we told you then we would know it was getting serious when the grand jury jumped into action. We now know that a grand jury will be impaneled. Most likely, my sources are telling me, it could be in Florida, where the raid of President Trump's Mar-a-Lago home happened. So that is the very latest.
Florida. The grand jury might be in Florida. Why is that relevant? Well, first of all, it's incredibly relevant because it won't be a D.C. grand jury impaneled where 90% of the voters in the District of Columbia voted for Joe Biden or for Hillary Clinton. Also relevant that Florida is, well, more politically friendly, certainly, let's just say. Number one. Number two, they're tying this to Mar-a-Lago, the Mar-a-Lago raid on the files that the president had in his possession down at his home, where the FBI raided and confiscated reams and reams of documents. Why? Well, because the theory goes that some of those documents were the very documents that have now been declassified, proving exactly what happened in the Russian collusion story. And the FBI and the Biden administration, they wanted those documents to hide the truth from Trump and eventually the American people, and to set Trump up. If that's the case, and that is part of the conspiracy, not only does it mean the jurisdiction can be Florida, but it also extends the timeline on the statute of limitations to when that raid took place, which is well within the 5 years necessary for a lot of the crimes being considered. Which brings us to one more factoid in this opening segment, and that is the U.S. attorney involved. You have to understand that we're still waiting for a lot of the U.S. attorneys that President Trump has nominated to take over in districts all around the country to actually be confirmed by the Senate. That's a problem. We need the president's men. We need Pam Bondi's men and women in those positions instead of holdovers or what they call career prosecutors who have stayed in the Justice Department since they first joined the government, under Barack Obama. We don't want those people handling these things. We want Trump's nominees. And, well, I've got good news in that regard. Remember how Fox News said we don't know who the prosecutor might be? Well, if John Solomon is correct, and this is going to be down in Florida, we have a pretty good idea. In fact, I reported it to you yesterday on my Substack, Larry VIP. You can subscribe if you'd like. It's free. The first quiet domino, Trump's new U.S. attorney in Miami, matters more than you think. That's right. Jason Redding Quinones, a Miami native who's just been confirmed as one of President Trump's very first U.S. attorneys. There are only a couple of jurisdictions, including Washington, D.C., a key U.S. attorney. That would be Judge Jeanine Pirro. She was confirmed on Saturday, but so was the U.S. attorney in Miami, who would, if that's where the grand jury is impaneled in the neighborhood of Mar-a-Lago, well, he would be the one coordinating this grand jury and working on behalf of the federal government to see if any crimes were in fact committed. That's probably the best scenario you can imagine. If you're Donald Trump, if you're a Republican, or if you're just an American who still cares about the truth and about justice. Hey guys, if you like my media analysis, do me a favor and purchase my book. It's called Shameless Liars, How Trump Defeated the Legacy Media and Made Them Irrelevant. It's all about the 2024 election, but it's also about freedom of the press. It's also about how we deserve an honest media. And I'll give you a spoiler, it's got a happy ending because Trump did win. He beat Biden, he beat Kamala, but more importantly, he beat the media. And we have a new media now that goes direct to you, without the gatekeepers telling you what's news and what's not. So buy my book. It's available in hardcover and paperback and an audio book. I narrate it, and I think you'll like it. Shameless Liars. Check it out. So because the media was forced to report the news and facts about the Russian collusion hoax and the indictments that might be coming down from a grand jury, well, some outlets actually took the story seriously and engaged in what could be described as a debate over whether the concerns are legitimate, whether the Justice Department is really looking to pursue the truth and prosecute crimes if they occurred. Kind of a debate happened. Over on CNN, Van Jones thinks this is much ado about nothing. Scott Jennings, our colleague here at Salem Media, he took a different approach, and it was beautiful.
Well, I think we're downplaying what's been found. And, you know, with respect to my sparring partner here, Van, half the country and one entire political party has an article of faith that Russia stole the 2016 election. Now, how did they come to that conclusion? They came to that conclusion because high-ranking Democrats, many of whom had intelligence titles that were bestowed upon them in the Obama administration, spent a lot of time and effort making an entire political party believe that. If you went to a Democratic fundraising dinner or political dinner tonight and got asked the question, did Russia steal the election? And you said no, you'd be booed off the stage. And so I think you're downplaying what has actually happened here. One party and half the country believes an election was stolen, and that did not happen by accident. There's evidence here. A grand jury looking at it. If it's as clean and mundane as you say, then these people ought to have nothing to worry about. But why shouldn't we look into it? The people who complain about misinformation and disinformation all the time, why does half the country believe something that didn't happen?
Well, half the country believes a lot of dumb stuff, including lots of dumb stuff that comes from Republicans, but nobody's trying to put anybody in prison over it. Listen, we live in a.
They tried to put Donald Trump in jail, man.
Hold on a second. They tried to put Donald Trump in jail over stuff that he actually he got indicted for, but the country went ahead and reelected him anyway. Look, my point is this. It is in fact the case. People believe a lot of wacky stuff and nutty stuff in my party and in your party. That is very different from the Department of Justice saying they're going to put somebody in prison over it. That's a different world. We've not been in a world before. Listen, you served in the White House. I served in the White House. The idea you're going to somehow now go to jail because people misinterpreted what you did in there, I think this is very, very scary stuff, man.
I got to jump in here. By the way, good to see Scott Jennings live from the Salem Radio studios there. You know, he's got a 1-hour show. He's our colleague here. Salem owns Town Hall, where this show is produced as well. And he's just down the hall from the Town Hall offices there when he does his radio show. But you heard Van Jones there. Listen, people believe a lot of crazy things, but you don't throw them in jail for it. You don't bring up federal charges. And hold on a minute. No one wants to jail anybody because they believe Russia hacked the election and stole it on behalf of Donald Trump. Obviously, people do believe crazy things. No. We want to put in jail the people who harnessed our intelligence community, the CIA and the FBI, to create a federal document that reached that conclusion and fed that bogus story to the American people to compel them to believe that. People didn't just come up with this out of the blue. It was like Trump beats Hillary Clinton, and then suddenly, spontaneously, over 2/3 of Democrats in this country think, oh, well, it must have been Russia who stole it. No, people believe that crazy stuff. And thank you, Van Jones, for admitting that it's crazy. Took you a few years. People believe that because they were spoon-fed that information under the fake imprimatur of the intelligence community. You know, the same ones who told you that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. How many times do intelligence agencies under the control of the federal government are going to lie to the American people about things until somebody actually pays a price for that? Why is Van Jones okay with that, by the way? Why is anyone who calls themselves a journalist, or for that matter, an American citizen, okay with the idea that we fund these giant spy organizations to create fake intelligence to try to convince us? They use it on us to propagandize us. Listen, if the CIA is propagandizing our enemies overseas, you can quibble with it, whether we should be engaged in that or not, but at least that's what the CIA is for. But when the CIA creates propaganda and fake intelligence to try to fool the American people, why am I the only one who wants to see someone go to jail for that? Oh, come on. No, we are not trying to put in jail because people believe something that's crazy. All right, I'll let Scott Jennings pick it up from here.
Scott?
Look, I mean, we're obviously going to see this differently, and you and I have agreed about many things regarding the last few years. But on this, my view is that it has become obvious that what happened as Donald Trump was coming in and Barack Obama was going out bears some amount of investigation. And again, if you're right, all these people, they should have nothing to worry about. But there's a lot of people out there that have looked at this and decided that, intelligence was changed and ignored, and there were career people in the intelligence services saying we can't use the Steele dossier and so on and so forth. So at some point, people are just asking, how do you get accountability? Why does half the country believe Russia stole an election? Where is the accountability for that? Did people abuse their positions? Did they perjure themselves? Did they willfully mislead the American people? How do you get accountability for it? That's the question here.
Scott, can I ask you, is this, in your eyes, this would be the final judgment on that? It wasn't the Durham report. It wasn't the Senate Intelligence Committee run by Marco Rubio report. It wasn't the House and Senate efforts in the last 6-7 years to look into this. This is the final one. After this, you'll believe whatever it is?
Well, I mean, I would think so. I mean, typically an investigation like this from the justice system would be the end of the line. I mean, you'll find out whether anybody did commit criminal acts or not. And again, I don't know whether they did or they didn't. And so if Van is right and everything was above board and this was all just mundane policy differences, then I don't know why anybody would be worried about having their actions scrutinized. It seems to me that a hit dog hollers. And right now, the hit dogs are hollering. And I'm just telling you, enough has come forward for Republicans to believe that this bears a little bit more investigation.
Look, we just see it differently. And listen, a grand jury that's not a little rock. That is somebody dropping a refrigerator on you if it comes through. And then you can spend 2 or 3 years.
I know. Donald Trump knows.
Well, and you can spend 2 or 3 years just proving that you're innocent, and you spend a whole bunch of money. And why are we doing this? Where it's damn near, I don't know how many hundreds of years later. I mean, the last like 6 months, it felt like 700 years. So I don't understand. Tulsi Gabbard has.
It's actually only 4.5 years since President Trump left office. It's only 4.5 years since he lost the 2020 election based on the rules that were set forth in that election. And a big part of that was the undermining of President Trump's ability to function as president because of this lie. Ridiculous. Oh, well, that's all in the past. That's old news. That's history. Please, they just convicted Trump of something that allegedly happened in the dressing room of a department store in the early 90s. That now they're using to say he's a convicted rapist, which he's not. So thank you. Spare me your, that happened so long ago. Guess what? If the statute of limitations is still active, then I don't care what your opinion is about how long ago it happened, number one. And number two, thanks for acknowledging that utilizing the Justice Department and lawfare to put people through hell, to have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars for attorney's fees to, as Van Jones just put it, prove your innocence, which thank you for acknowledging that that's how your system works, where people actually are presumed guilty and they have to prove their innocence. Thank you for acknowledging that is hell that you would put somebody through on trumped up charges, because that's exactly what dear friends of mine had to go through during the first Trump administration, even without any charges being levied against them. Let me tell you about a guy named Carter Page, who is a Naval Academy graduate, a veteran of the U.S. Navy, who they pulled a FISA warrant on by claiming he was a Russian asset and a spy against his own country, when the guy's never been arrested for jaywalking. What kind of hell did you put him through? And when I say you, I mean James Comey and Andrew McCabe and Peter Strzok.
Not put forward
and the Obama
any
administration. So please spare me your concerns now. That's exactly the system that you created. That's exactly the system that you've used as a weapon in this entire escapade. And, oh, by the way, I do love the 2-on-1 with Scott Jennings. Well, will this finally put this to rest? I mean, will this be the end of it? Asks the host. Let me ask you a question. I was told that getting a special prosecutor, Robert Mueller, and having him investigate Russian collusion would be the end of it. Was that the end of it? When you still have Democrats still claiming, they falsely claimed that the Mueller investigation proved Russian collusion when it never did. So spare me the double standards here that you're using. Yesterday was a great day for a lot of Republicans who finally feel vindicated over our position on the Russian collusion hoax that we've been holding for nearly a decade now. Tim Burchett, Congressman, told it like it was on Fox Business.
Intelligence showing former President Obama and his officials pushed a, quote, contrived narrative that Russia helped Trump win, selling it to the American people as if it was fact when it was not. You know, government reports concluded Trump never helped Russia hack into Democrat emails, never helped Russia push anti-Hillary propaganda with social media bots, or helped Russia hack into the vote and into the election infrastructure. They welcomed Russia's help, but there was no collusion. So how dangerous was this for the American people? Because America suffered for this for years.
Oh, it was very dangerous, the attempt to overthrow a sitting president or to divert him from becoming president again at the highest levels of government. Tulsi Gabbard brought the receipts. Anytime she wears that white suit, I know somebody's getting ready to get gutted, and they sure did, and they deserve it because she has the goods. As the young people say, she brought the receipts, and she's a class act, and she'll continue doing very well in that position, and I couldn't be happier for her. But I think America needs to realize there is a deep state. There is a group of people that meet and they revel in our misery, and because they have to be, because Donald Trump is just, all he's preached is success for this country and for our economy, for our military, energy independence, the things that we used to take pride in, they hate. And it's clear what their objective was a complete overthrow of this country.
Congressman Burchett is getting right up there with Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana. Every time Tulsi Gabbard wears that white suit, I know somebody's going to get gutted. That's a great line. And well said. Also well said is anything that comes out of the mouth of Deputy Chief of Staff of the White House, Stephen Miller.
The Russia collusion hoax against President Trump remains the single greatest hoax and the greatest assault on our democracy in the history of this country. There's no comparison. There's no parallel to anything else. It was a coup. And I'm using that term literally. It was a coup to overthrow a democratically elected government, a coup carried out by the intelligence apparatus of this country, by the deep state, by Hillary Clinton and the Democrat Party. The new information that has been revealed by the Director of National Intelligence and by the FBI eliminates any scintilla of doubt about the intention, the premeditation, the planning and orchestration of this conspiracy. It meets all of the criminal elements of a seditious conspiracy against the United States. It meets the criminal elements of an insurrection. It meets the criminal elements of a conspiracy against the government and the criminal elements of a conspiracy to deprive citizens of their civil rights under color of law. One egregious felony after another. And because it is a conspiracy, as demonstrated by the forethought of realizing and documenting that they understood that this was fake from the beginning, meeting the mens rea standard in law. Because of that, because it is a conspiracy, every single individual actor is now part of that conspiracy. So that includes Brennan and Clapper and Comey and Hillary and Schiff and everybody else who knowingly and willfully perpetrated this plot, this coup, this conspiracy, this scheme against President Trump and the government of the United States. And now is the time and the hour and the moment for accountability so that we can reclaim this democracy, Maria.
That was beautiful. It was brilliant. Love Stephen Miller. And you heard him detail a good handful of felonies there and articulated specifically what those felonies were, right? So at Fox Business, that's the kind of information and news you get from newsmakers. Over on CNN, you get their legal analyst, Ellie Honig, saying this.
So that's my question. I know I'm here to answer questions. What's the crime? I mean, what's even the potential crime? Seriously, I mean, I'm not trying to be confrontational here. Can anyone at this table even articulate what the potential crime might be?
I mean, election interference, manufactured intelligence,
not a crime, not a
deprivation
crime.
of
You're 0 for 2.
voter rights, obstruction of justice.
What you've said a crime now. What is obstruction of justice?
And anything the grand jury says it is.
No, and to that point, let me further
but
say
most of
with
these
this.
crimes have a statute of limitation of
There
5
you go.
years.
That's where I was going next.
So that's
right?
the problem.
I mean, this is ancient history legally, right? The statute of limitations on almost every federal crime is 5 years. This stuff was 9
But
years
they say
ago.
there's an ongoing conspiracy, and so that could
Sure. If
extend
there's an
the
ongoing
statute of
conspiracy that stretches
limitations.
into 5 years ago, then you would not have a statute of limitations problem. The crimes that Tulsi Gabbard has articulated, I don't know if she's a lawyer, she's definitely not at the Justice Department, are what treason and sedition. I mean, that means trying to overthrow the government and waging war against the United States. We are so far out over the edge here with this. And look,
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Let's set aside treason and sedition here because those are Tulsi Gabbard's words, not mine. But Elaine Honig, he asked this somewhat rhetorical question to the panel and then waits for an answer and didn't like what he was hearing. And so he just sort of steamrolled over it. But the rhetorical question is, where's the crime? What's the crime? And just understand that this is where they're finding themselves. This is what they're left with. Oh, sure, Obama told the director of the CIA to come up with an assessment that matched what he believed he wanted the country and the world to hear, which was Putin favored Trump and helped interfere in the election to help him win, even though there's no evidence. But go ahead and put together that assessment and find whatever intelligence you can that supports it. But that's not a crime. That's what they're left with. To acknowledge that this happened or stipulate that it happened and then say, oh, but where's the crime? Which is a pretty tenuous place for them to be, I promise you. But I'll play Eli Honig's game here. What's the crime? I wasn't at the panel. CNN would never invite me. What's the crime? Okay, buckle up. Stick with me. Mark this on the video so you can share it, or you can go to my Substack, Larry VIP. It's up there now. What crime? Well, we got a few ideas. Let me blow it up for you. Number one, conspiracy to defraud the United States. That's a U.S. code. It criminalizes any conspiracy to impair, obstruct, or defeat the lawful functions of the U.S. government. That means getting in the way of the president from doing his job, getting in the way of the new administration hitting the ground, being able to hire people and actually function. That's conspiracy to defraud the United States. How about false statement to federal officials? We know. We've seen it on tape. John Brennan lying to members of Congress. But understand that members of the FBI, members of the CIA, including the heads of those divisions under Barack Obama, were all interviewed by Mr. Durham, the special prosecutor. If they continued the lie that, oh, we didn't use the Steele dossier, oh, we had verified intelligence, of course, we never, then they lied to federal officials. Obstruction of justice goes along with number two there. That includes the destruction of records, suppression of key intelligence. So if you have intelligence that overwhelmingly shows that there's no evidence that Russia favored Donald Trump over Hillary Clinton, and instead you draw out that one little fragment of a sentence that you believe supports that notion and you suppress the other intelligence, that's obstruction of justice. Suppression of key intelligence or targeted retaliation against investigators and whistleblowers. And we've got plenty of targeted retaliations against whistleblowers. How about FISA abuse and civil rights violations? I already told you about Carter Page and how they used the Steele dossier. James Comey signed that FISA warrant, and he's never been brought up on charges for using the known false Steele dossier. to pull a FISA warrant. That's FISA abuse. That's a violation of Carter Page's civil rights. How about perjury before Congress? Already showed you the videos of John Brennan swearing under oath that they did not use the Steele dossier for the intelligence community assessment. And in fact, they did. In fact, John Brennan insisted that they use the Steele dossier for that. That's perjury. How about Hatch Act violations? That restricts federal employees from engaging in partisan political activity. That you can go all the way up to the president of the United States, but you'd have a tough one making that case with Barack Obama. But every single person involved in this, after the fact and during the fact. How about Peter Strzok and Andrew McCabe, who said they had an insurance policy just in case Trump wins the election? That's an overt political act to benefit Hillary Clinton and harm Donald Trump. That's a Hatch Act violation. How about misuse of federal funds or property? Taxpayer dollars indirectly routed through government contracts or intel operations to fund opposition research like the Steele dossier, or to prop up the Steele dossier, or used to pay an informant to support the false claims of the Steele dossier, which we believe the FBI did under James Comey. That's misuse of federal funds or property. How about seditious conspiracy? Again, it's a rare one. If the intent was to remove or delegitimize a sitting president through fraudulent means and institutional abuse, some could argue this rises to seditious conspiracy. James Comey says that he leaked the fact that he briefed Donald Trump on the Steele dossier, the P tape. He says that he did that because he thought it might move further toward getting a special prosecutor to investigate the president of the United States. You could argue that that was a seditious act to try to delegitimize or at the very least remove the president through his specific fraudulent actions. How about contempt of Congress, refusing to comply with lawful congressional subpoenas during an investigation into FISA abuse, the origins of Crossfire Hurricane, or the weaponization of intel? That could all merit prosecution and contempt of Congress, as Devin Nunes, the Republican in charge of the Intelligence Committee, who, by the way, his number one man there on the investigation was a then unknown lawyer named Kash Patel. They were obstructed left and right. Let's throw Adam Schiff in there while we're at it. Kash Patel is now the director of the FBI. Witness tampering or retaliation, that would be tampering with witnesses, retaliation against whistleblowers. Were honest actors inside the FBI or DOJ punished for telling the truth or refusing to go along? It's a key area of potential misconduct and something that should be investigated. Okay, Eli Honig, where's the crime? There's 10 crimes right there. And I only had about 45 minutes to put that together before today's show. Where's the crime? There's your crime. Keep an eye on this story. I know we will. And make sure you subscribe to our channel, because every minute development in the Russian collusion hoax investigation, we will deliver to you, good or bad, beautiful or ugly. That's what we do. Hey, and while we're at it, guys, make sure you become a VIP member of Town Hall. It's a great family of great reporters and journalists and content creators. And if you become a VIP member of Town Hall, well, first of all, you get an ad-free experience on all our sites. That's townhall.com, hotair.com, pjmedia.com, redstate.com, and Twitchy. Plus Bearing Arms, I forgot. Plus, not only do you get an ad-free experience, but you get exclusive content just for our VIP members. And you also support what we do here. You support this program. So go to townhallvip.com, use the code Larry at checkout, and you're going to get 50% off. Oh, Kevin, I totally forgot to play this last video. You want to edit this in at the end of when you break this out as a segment?
I would be happy to.
All right, let me edit this in real fast. There's your crimes, Eli. There's your crimes. 10 crimes, and I only had about 45 minutes to put it together. I'm sure I could come up with more. Even better, I'm sure a U.S. attorney, along with the grand jury's assistance, could come up with more. I guess what I'm trying to say, Eli, if I may, you know what? I'm not going to say it. I got a bunch of friends here from the last several years who are going to say it for me.
Walls feel like they are closing in. But as the walls close in around the president,
Donald Trump feels the walls closing in.
I think this is a guy who feels like the walls are closing in.
The walls are closing in on him.
because the walls are closing in, the walls are closing in on the president.
Now the walls appear to be closing in.
Really kind of the walls closing in on him.
The walls are closing in because the walls are indeed closing in.
I think at this point, the walls are spinning.
The legal walls are closing in. The walls are closing in on President Trump.
The walls, meanwhile, are closing in on the President of the United States.
The walls closing in on President Donald Trump.
It appears that the walls are closing in on this president.
He feels that the walls are closing in on him.
The walls closing in on him. The walls are closing in, and the walls are closing in.
That the walls are closing in on the president.
Are the walls closing in?
The walls are closing in on the presidency.
He says as the walls begin to close around him. Is the political walls closing in on him?
This is a president that feels the walls closing in.
The walls are closing in on Donald Trump.
I think the walls are finally closing in.
The walls, the walls,
the walls,
The walls,
the walls,
walls, and the walls,
The walls, the walls,
the walls are closing in,
closing in.
closing in.
closing in on.
It's closing in.
The walls are closing in on
President Donald Trump.
He's not looking forward to any of it. He's horrified. He's just talking big. The walls are closing in, as has been said before.
Yeah. The walls are closing in. It's true, but not on the guy they told you the walls were closing in on. Keep watching. We're all over this story, and we're not going anywhere. All right, there we go. Can't believe I forgot to put that in there. You know how I love a big montage, Kevin. Dang it. We've got an update on the Texas redistricting, gerrymandering, Democrats fleeing the state story. Remember, it's unbelievable, but I just want to tell you, the way we've got the updates for you here are a little bit surprising. I mean, Chuck Todd actually told viewers on CNN the truth about this story. And in a different segment, a Republican congressman absolutely body slammed the CNN host, and it was a beautiful thing to see. That coming up in a minute, but let's start with Chuck Todd here. Accidentally, I'm sure he didn't plan it, being honest.
It seems as if the strategies bring more attention to this, make everybody uncomfortable, right? The more painful you make the process in Texas, the more it's hard to replicate. Maybe they may be their own colleagues aren't as interested in this. Congressional Republicans that serve in Texas, whose districts are actually going to get impacted negatively, also secretly are kind of hoping this goes away too. And I think they think the more painful they can make this in doing it, maybe there's a way to shut this down. So I understand the strategy, and I think you get this. The part that I think is sort of bad, I think it's a bad look for a party that claims to be always trying to protect the democracy, is to hole up in a state that gerrymanders. The state of Illinois. I mean, one of the worst, look, Texas, Florida, Illinois, and Maryland. Those are your four giant gerrymandered states. And if you're trying to make a point on gerrymandering, I don't think I'd be going to the state of Illinois as a place to hide.
Is it possible that Chuck Todd watches our show? We showed you some of the horrific districts in Illinois that they went and fled to make the case against gerrymandering. And he's right, by the way, about the state of Maryland. That's my state. In fact, my district itself, I've told you about it before. I'm going to show you what my district looks like. It's, remarkable. But I told you that we had some good pushback yesterday on the story. Republicans seem to be behaving as though they know they're on the winning side of this argument. They know that when Democrats are like turning tail and running and fleeing and not showing up for work and going to another state, that's a really bad look for them. And knowing that they've got the facts and history with regard to gerrymandering on their side, Republicans are coming out swinging. Watch this. It's beautiful.
Has said so on multiple occasions. Quite frankly, we should have done this during the regular session and had this in the rearview mirror by now.
So then is your objection against Pritzker or Newsom doing the same thing purely that it doesn't advantage your party? That's not consistent.
No, I've never said something like that. You're putting words in my mouth. My objection,
you're pointing the finger at them,
isn't that he's not allowed to do it. My objection is the rank hypocrisy and dishonesty of what he's saying. I'm going to hold this up. Can you see this? You see this? I want Pritzker. Did CNN? Did y'all have him on to explain Illinois 13, this pinky-sized finger that goes across the entire state that was 100% drawn for partisan political purposes. But I haven't seen anybody at CNN or pretty much any of the other major networks bringing him on, or the Democrats and his legislator that drew a map with districts that are far more gerrymandered than anything that the House, that the Texas maps that we're contemplating look like here today. So it's rank hypocrisy. That's my problem. And the dishonesty and the faux outrage. They're not mad that states are redistricting for partisan purposes. They're mad that a Republican state is doing it.
Oh, that was brilliant, especially with the visual aid. Did you see the look on the CNN host? That's what I mean by a body slam. They weren't expecting that at all. And that district in Illinois, it says it all. By the way, side note, which I think all of you will enjoy, the delicious irony of this. Yeah, when Illinois redistricted like that and created that little sliver, we talked about it yesterday. Do you know who ended up losing their district during that whole redistricting process in Illinois? Do you know who ended up getting districted out and had to leave Congress? None other than Adam Kinzinger. That's right. The never Trump crybaby Republican who cozied up with the Democrats the last 4 years he was in Congress. The thanks he got, the reward he got for simping for Democrats the whole time is that they districted him out with that district that they drew. And now he's unemployed. I love that. But yeah, that's a great example of what Democrats do in Democrat states. I shared yesterday on X my district. I live in this district. I'm not worried about you hunting me down and finding my house because it's still kind of a big district. But I kid you not, that's not like the Lake District in Maryland. Maryland doesn't have a Lake District. And that's not some sort of like absinthe stain that I spilled on the map. I couldn't think of another green liquid. That's my congressional district up until 2 years ago, when through a court order, it was actually redrawn. It wasn't redrawn much better, but Martin O'Malley, the governor of Maryland, redrew Maryland 3 specifically to maximize Democrats' representation in Congress. And this monster, this broken-winged pterodactyl, this spider having sexual relations with a squashed squid, that ended up being the congressional district. Spare me all the drama over Republicans in Texas engaging in partisan gerrymandering. The irony about the way the districts are being redrawn in Texas is that the way they currently exist, they have been gerrymandered. No one denies it, but they were gerrymandered to reflect specific racial lines and ethnic lines. We want this black district. We want this black and Latino district. We want this Latino district. We want that white district. That's against the law. What Republicans are doing now in Texas, and they'll freely admit it, is they're playing the game that Democrats have played in states like Illinois and Maryland and New York and other blue dominant states. They are redrawing the districts. They are gerrymandering. They're doing it to maximize their political partisan representation, not based on race, based on party registration. You may not like it, but that's legal. When you do it based on race or ethnicity, then you're breaking the law. That's what Democrats have done consistently, year after year after year. Donald Trump knows it. He appeared on CNBC this morning. He was asked about this story, and specifically about Jabba the Hutt Pritzker giving aid and comfort, even sending a private jet down to these Democrats to come hide in Illinois. Go ahead, Donald Trump. Go ahead.
In Illinois, we have probably the dumbest of all governors. Illinois, that guy is really sending, I mean, the business is flowing out of his state. It's terrible. It's a terrible thing that Pritzker's doing. He was the black sheep of the family. They threw him out of the business. But in Illinois, what's happened is terrible what they're doing. And you notice they go to Illinois for safety, but that's all gerrymandered. California's gerrymandered. We should have many more seats in Congress in California.
He's spot on there, although hold up there when you talk about the dumbest Democrat out there. I don't know if J.B. Pritzker wins that prize because the aforementioned Texas has one Congressman, Jasmine Crockett, amongst their ranks. And boy, was she on her best game talking about this issue yesterday.
That they talk a lot of noise, but these guys are weak. That's why they're over here trying to bully people. Bullies are always weak. The difference is they expect Democrats to kind of be the nice guys that we are. They expect us to take the punch and say thank you. Well, I am here to tell you, not only are we going to punch back, but we about to beat you down. We're going to win. I'm going to tell you why we're going to win.
Not only are we going to punch back, but what was that? We about to beat you down. I just want to make sure I got the transcript right there. We about to beat you down. Sounds kind of violent, doesn't it? She then put together a charming little TikTok Insta video for all of her social media followers. You know, she thinks she should chair the oversight committee because she has more social media followers than her colleagues.
I am Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, but I am standing here with one of my faves right here, honey.
Yes.
Listen, and guess what? Neither one of us are in Texas. You know why? Because we know that it is time to stand up, rise up, and fight back against these fools that think that we're weak. One thing that they should know, when it comes to a Black woman and a Latina,
that's right,
they're about to get a little spice, okay? And that's exactly what they got. So right now we are fighting for our rights in this country. We are fighting for democracy. And I just want y'all to know that I'm standing 10 toes down with my homie, the representative from the great state of Texas.
That's right.
Yeah.
Maybe Trump spoke a little prematurely about J.B. Pritzker being the dumbest Democrat out there. But he continued this morning on CNBC with the assessments of the IQ of his political opponents and really where the Democrats are right now.
The Democrat Party is self-destructing. I mean, when you have low IQ people like Crockett, I wonder if she's in a relationship to the late, great Davy Crockett, who was a great gentleman. I wonder if she's got any relationship to Davy Crockett, the great old Davy Crockett. But you have this woman Crockett. She's a very low IQ person. Somebody said the other day she's one of the leaders of the party. I said, you got to be kidding. The Democrats are lost. They have Trump derangement syndrome so bad that they can't walk. They can't talk. They don't know where they're going. Schumer is finished. Schumer, look, I watched him the other day. He's lost all of his confidence.
He was on a roll this morning. I did. When Trump does a phone interview because he can't see the host that he's interacting with, he just goes. I mean, good luck getting a word in, dude. It ain't gonna happen. But it's true. I love that he goes after Crockett. I love that he knows what's going on in the party and in the country. He's not caught off guard, and he's right to point out that the Democrats are absolutely falling apart. This strategy of the Texas Democrats leaving the state is going to blow up in their face. Addendum to yesterday's program where we gave you an update. Yes, Governor Abbott has, in fact, compelled the House of Representatives in the state of Texas to issue arrest warrants for each and every one of these Democrats as they fled the state. Daily $500 fine that I'm sure will get rectified when they finally come back and face the music. And yes, this vote will go through. The redistricting will happen. And yes, Democrats are going to lose seats in the House of Representatives, the good old-fashioned way. It's called politics, and we're here for it. Up in New York, Democrats have nominated a communist to be the mayor of their city, Zohran Mamdani. And honestly, his communism is only part of the problem. He hates the state of Israel, too. He also was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, but he acts like he doesn't even know how to use a spoon. He eats rice with his fingers, which is just gross. But he just got a huge endorsement yesterday from Elizabeth Warren. Democrats have been somewhat on the fence as to whether they're going to endorse this guy or not, but Elizabeth Warren is all in. She thinks that Mamdani's brand of communism is actually the future of the Democratic Party, and we agree. The trouble with Elizabeth Warren is she tried to take that message to CNBC, and it did not end well for her. Not at all. We'll show you that in a second, but first, let's see Grandma Warren given the full-throated endorsement to Kami Mamdani. As the New York Post put it, African-American meets Native American, And it was a beautiful sight for all you socialists out there.
Senator, is this what the future of the party you hope progressive social? Is this what the party should look like?
Yes.
Democratic Party moving.
You bet.
Senator, is this
I love it. You bet. Absolutely, this is what the party should look for. Listen, I'm glad they're out of the closet. I'm sure they're going to feel a lot freer now to really be themselves. My understanding is that when one comes out of the closet, as a socialist, of course, that suddenly you don't feel this burden to live a lie anymore. You don't feel a burden to constantly put up this false front and pretend to the world. No, embrace it. Embrace it, Liz Warren. You're all communists. It's great. It's beautiful. Here's the New York Post headline that I was talking about. It's perfect. It's absolutely exquisite. So yeah, here she is being a full-on socialist, full-on state-controlled grocery stores, state-controlled real estate, defund the police, send social workers out when there's a big shooting, screw the state of Israel, prop up Hamas, globalize the Intifada, all the things that Zohran Mamdani stands for. This is what the Democrats should look like, she says. So then she goes on CNBC and tells, everybody watching, the people who happen to love free markets, capitalism, if you'd like to call it that, she tries to sell it there. They weren't buying.
You mentioned Mamdani, and you are in New York, sort of speaking in behalf of him to a certain extent. I wonder, though, often we see this, and this is a local election. New York does not operate in a vacuum. It competes with other cities. And so this idea of somehow raising taxes on the wealthiest New Yorkers, who, by the way, I would point out, pay roughly 15% of their income right now between city and state, raising taxes on them will simply drive them away. Shouldn't the focus of a mayor be on delivering services to the constituents of the city and doing that by raising the most revenue as possible without chasing businesses and the high income taxpayers out of the city? Because they can go to Austin, they can go to Dallas, they can go to Atlanta, they can go to Nashville. This is your issue. It's a national issue, not a local issue.
The issue is affordability. Do you know how many working families are chased out of New York City every day because they can't afford housing, they can't afford groceries, they can't afford childcare? What Zohran is saying is, I want people to be able to afford to live in New York City. That's what keeps it a vibrant city. That's what makes people want to live
Nobody
here.
disagrees with that, Senator, but raising taxes in order to do it? Why is that the answer?
Oh, dear. Are you worried that billionaires are going to go hungry?
No, I'm worried that they're going to leave and spend their money elsewhere.
They've threatened to do that over and over and over.
And they have. They've left.
But here's the thing.
And Goldman Sachs, when they create new jobs, they do it in Dallas. And Blackstone won't build a new headquarters. And go on and on.
You want to have a workable city? You want to have a city that's vibrant. You want to have a city where streets are full, where there are things for sale 24 hours a day. Then you need people who can live here and work
Well, we've
here.
got that right now,
Not
by the
people
way.
who
I
have
would
to
point
take
out
an
New
hour
York
and a
is
half
New York
in.
is thriving. So right
Well,
now it's doing pretty well, actually.
I'm glad you think they're doing well, because a lot of people are struggling to pay for housing. A lot of people are struggling to pay for groceries. And I got to tell you, mamas and daddies who are facing $25,000 a year to pay for childcare.
Those are national issues. I mean, I know they are the local state, but you can't.
New York City.
Yes, but if you deal with them in that way, by what is always your backup, just tax them more, they will leave.
He's right, and she didn't really have much of an argument, except for this. It was quite an argument that she made when he said, what, you're just going to keep raising taxes on people? Well, that's not going to solve the problems. It never does. Did you hear her response?
Are you worried that billionaires are going to go hungry?
No, I'm worried that they're going to leave.
Let me start from the first part of it. I need you to hear the beginning of it.
To be able to afford to live in New York City. That's what keeps it a vibrant city. That's what makes people want to live
Nobody
here.
disagrees with that, Senator, but raising taxes in order to do it?
Oh,
why
my
is that
goodness.
the answer?
Oh, dear. Are you worried that billionaires are going to go hungry?
Did you hear that? Oh, no. Oh, my goodness. Oh, dear. She literally did the meme. She did this guy. Oh, no. Work. This is who they are now. Again, I'm glad they're not hiding it. Come on out of the closet. Burst out. Do your RuPaul runway walk, baby. Let's go. I would think it's probably easier to come out as a Democrat as, trans or drag queen or gay or whatever, than it is to actually honestly look in the mirror and look at your family, look at your voters and say, yeah, I'm a socialist. But it's got to happen sooner or later. And if anything, Mamdani and this androgynous individual is helping them get there. It's who they are. And by the way, it's not exclusive to New York City. Look at this stunning video. Nebraska Congressman Mike Flood having a town hall. And, the issue of the reforms to Medicare just came up. How Republicans have decided that they're going to bring back Medicare to where it was supposed to be, Medicaid, to where it was supposed to be, where only the women and children who are disabled or unable to work get their health care covered for them. But if you're an able-bodied young adult male who has every opportunity to get a job and work, you shouldn't be getting free health care and benefits from the government. The way the program was designed and the way it's supposed to be. He brought that issue to his town hall, but it was infiltrated by a bunch of radical left-wing activists. And listen to what happened in Nebraska.
Talks about two big changes to the Medicaid program. One of those changes is that if you are able to work and you are able-bodied, you have to work. If you choose not to work, you do not get free health care. You do not get free health care. Okay. So here's a question. Do you think that people who are 28 years old that can work and refuse to work should get free health care? I don't think that a majority of Nebraskans agree with you.
Yeah, they don't, nor do the majority of Americans. But it can't be denied that the socialist agenda with certain quarters in this country is working. It's winning. They really do believe that. Wasn't that stunning to see? If you're completely capable of working and you choose not to work, you don't get free health care. Boo! We hate work. We hate responsibility. That my only problem with the good congressman, who is obviously under fire there, and I think he handled himself very well, but he shouldn't have posed the question the way he did. You see, it's very important the words we use when we make these arguments. Maybe you caught it.
So here's a question. Do you think that people who are 28 years old that can work and refuse to work should get free health care?
See, here's the thing with that question. Everybody loves free stuff, right? Hey, you want free tickets to the ball game? Hell yeah, I'll take free tickets to the ball game. Hey, you want a free ride to work today? Even better, how about a free car? How about a free vacation? Sure, free stuff is great. Free healthcare, you betcha. See, but the funny thing is, all of those things, they actually cost something. And if you're getting it for free, somebody's paying for it. You could make an argument about a free ticket to the ball game. I mean, if the seat was going to go empty anyway, like if it was the Washington Nationals, sure, I guess no one's really paying for it. It was going to sit empty, so what? But somebody paid for that car that you're getting for free, right? And certainly somebody pays for your health care. There's no such thing as free health care. Doctor ain't working for free. The meds aren't free. The hospital ain't free. There's a whole lot of cost involved. You see, it's not free health care, Congressman, if I may. The better way to ask the question is, if somebody's 28 years old and they're perfectly able to work, but they choose not to work, why is it moral, ethical, or for that matter, constitutional to force another American to pay for their health care? Another 28-year-old who happens to live right next door to the freeloader. Why should that person who has a job have to pay for his neighbor's health care who could easily go to work but chooses not to? You see the distinction there. It's not free. You're making me pay for it. You're making everyone else in the country pay for it. What's the moral argument to support that? I bet some of the people in the crowd will still cheer and still say, yes, that's what we want. But it may make them think a second time. Meanwhile, the contrast is stark when you see that going on in our country, in New York, and Elizabeth Warren and the socialists. And then you see Donald Trump also on CNBC talking about what's really going on in this country with this economy for people who are working.
But if you look at the jobs report last week, it did show a 1.7 million drop off of foreign-born workers from March to July. And
That's a great number, by the way. That's a great number because it means we're putting Americans to work.
But if you look at the jobs report last week,
she tried to get him with that. Hey, this is bad. 1.7 million foreign workers. And Trump's like, yeah, because Americans are working instead. Bad news for the socialists, actually. And speaking of socialists, actually speaking of communists, Donald Trump also told a story on CNBC, a perfectly appropriate communist story, something that he had to suffer through, a perfect example of what happens when the communists take over, personified by Elizabeth Warren, who has now said that these tactics, these ideas, these policies is what the Democrat Party should look like now. We'll take a listen to what happens when the government puts pressure on the private sector, when they have control, when they have power. They say they want to get into office and then take control of your grocery stores and your real estate and your housing and your education and all the other things because they're going to make it more affordable. But you have to hand power over to them for them to do all those great things. And then what happens when they have that power? Well, Donald Trump was the victim of a very close facsimile of what happens. Take a listen to this story.
They did discriminate. I had J.P. Morgan Chase. I had hundreds of millions of dollars in cash. I could see if they want to, if they want to do something bad because you don't have any money and you defaulted and they took people out. But I'll give you me as an example. I had hundreds of millions. I had many, many accounts loaded up with cash. I was loaded up with cash. And they told me, I'm sorry, sir, we can't have you. You have 20 days to get out. I said, you got to be kidding. I've been with you for 35, 40 years. They said, and I mean, I had all this. I didn't know what to do with it. And I went to, and you could ask him, maybe he's not going to admit it. So I said, I was informed by my people that we have to get out of Chase Manhattan. That's Jamie and J.P. Morgan Chase. So I said, I can't believe it. Well, I was never in this situation before. I've never had anything like it. And it's not like, gee, you defaulted on a loan. Geez, I can understand that. That's different. But there's no default. I mean, there's nothing but cash. I have a really great company. And then what happens is I call up Bank of America routinely because when I was president, this was after I got out, by the way, I call up Bank of America routinely. And I speak to him and I speak to a couple of people and they have zero interest. Brian was kissing my ass when I was president. And when I called him after I was president to deposit $1 billion plus and a lot of other things, more importantly, to open accounts, which banks always like. They like accounts because they get interest free, the overnights and things, a lot of reasons for it, but they like accounts. I had hundreds of accounts. And he said, we can't do it. No, we can't do it. So I went to another one. I ended up going to small banks all over the place. I mean, I was putting 10 million here, 10 million there, did 5 million, 10 million, 12 million. I have them all over the place, the craziest thing. And it's lucky I even had them. They were doing me a favor. And that's because the banks discriminated against me.
That's right. President Donald Trump, multi-millionaire and former president of the United States, was debanked. J.P. Morgan Chase, Bank of America, would not take his business because they didn't want to piss off Joe Biden and the Democrats who were in charge after his presidency. That's what they do. That's what happened when these corrupt leftists take over the controls of your government and of your economy. You want to know what our socialist utopia will look like when Elizabeth Warren and Zohran Mamdani and Bernie Sanders and AOC and all the other Democrats who are now embracing this ideology and coming out of the closet to express that's exactly who they are and how they're best represented? You want to know what happens to our country when that happens? That's what happens. You can be the most popular, powerful, wealthiest man, but if you get on the wrong side of them politically, they will erase you. It happened to Donald Trump. Let that be a lesson. Please let that be a lesson. And finally, not for nothing, it's not really related to any of this, but since we're talking about President Trump, after his interview on CNBC a little later this morning, he decided to take a walk on the White House grounds. Well, actually, that's not completely accurate. He decided to take a walk on the White House. No, I mean literally on top of the White House, like on the roof of the White House. This is the strangest thing, but I just thought you'd appreciate it. Let's watch.
Mr. President, what are you doing up there?
Come down and talk to us.
What are you building?
Are you considering more renovations, sir?
Are you going to build up
Aye,
there?
sir. What do you?
Are you considering a second story?
Are you going to add another level?
I hope you all appreciate what a remarkable time this is we're living in. And I hope you are taking note of our daily experience in this, the golden age. And you can tell your kids and your grandkids about it when they ask you years from now. By the way, subscribing to our daily podcast is a great way to stay on top of it. Every day we sort of chronicle the extraordinary things that is happening, and you can always go back a year later and take a look at what we were talking about. I did that the other day. It's pretty fun to see how the show has evolved as well. But there was the president walking on the rooftop and then stopping and doing an impromptu press conference and answering questions of the press and telling Peter Doocy that he looks good from what would be, I guess, the third floor of the White House. I don't think that's what he was planning, although he did look like he was wanting to build something dome-like, which would have been over the press room. I think that was on the, it was on the West Wing, but beyond the West Wing. It was actually over the Roosevelt Room and where the press assembles. But he says that he was over looking at the other side where the ballroom is coming in, and I guess he wanted to check something on the roof because, well, why not? Amazing times, incredible future that we have in front of us if we can keep the communists out. All right, guys, thank you for watching today. What a fun show. I told you it was going to be loaded. We had a lot of content for you, and we did some deep dives into a lot of good stories. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully you can pull out that part about the crimes that potentially could be evaluated by the grand jury. You know, find that, bookmark it, you know, the timestamp, and then share that with people on your social media, especially with your crazy liberals on Facebook who keep saying there's no crime here, there's no crime here. All right. Kevin McMahon, our fabulous producer. Do we? Oh, we do. Here we go. We have super chats. God's best friend over in the UK with £2. Any progress on Biden's 22 LLCs? You know, in terms of the DOJ, I don't know. I think that's still an open investigation for James Comer and the Oversight Committee. By the way, we didn't even include this today in our rundown, but right before we went on the air, James Comer at the Oversight Committee announced subpoenas. Let me just throw it up here for you real fast. Announced subpoenas. Take a look at this. House Oversight Committee compelling the following individuals to appear for depositions: Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Merrick Garland, James Comey, Attorney General Bill Barr, U.S. Attorney Alberto Gonzales, Attorney General Jeff Sessions, FBI Director and Special Prosecutor Robert Mueller, former Attorney General Loretta Lynch, and former Attorney General Eric Holder. Holy Moses. That's quite a rundown of subpoenas for the Oversight Committee. Can't wait to see who chooses not to go. By the way, last I checked, if you refuse to testify, can't they throw you in jail? Isn't that what they did to Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro? I think, if my memory serves, that's exactly what happened. Thanks, God's best friend, for the £2. Angela with a $5 super chat. Larry, with all the hard work Kevin does, hold on. Kevin, did you compel her? Did you DM her on this?
I had nothing to do with this.
Why do they think you work so hard?
Why don't you?
I'm not saying you don't. I'm just saying, why do they think you do? He deserves a huge raise. By the way, I think it's hilarious that they think that you work for me and that I have any control over the income that you make. If only. Are you growing a beard, or are you trying to mimic the Bumocrats? We love you, Larry. We love you right back, Angela. I'm not growing a beard. This is my summer non-shaving thing. Because I'm embracing the summer. I'm wearing my summer shirts. I'm not. I will probably shave tomorrow. You know the rule when it's time for me to shave. When this has gotten too out of control, Meredith draws the line and says, "That's enough. That's enough. Shave that crap." God's best friend with the £2 super chat. September 12th, 2016, per the president's request. Oh, excuse me, December 9th. He's doing it like a Brit. That's December 9th, 2016, per the president's request. Game over. That is game over. You're right. 100%. I love that you're following this over there, God's best friend. Angela with a $5 super chat. For 5 years, we've heard J6 nonstop. Now Russiagate, move on. The hypocrisy of Democrats is despicable. Yeah, I thought you'd appreciate when I do that, I'm not looking at my watch because I want to know what time it is. I'm getting notifications on my smartwatch of text messages. I'm sorry about that. I just realized it looks like I'm looking at my watch like I'm Joe Biden. Sorry about that. Yes, you are 100% right, Angela. And that video of Joe Scarborough saying, "Move on, enough with the Russia." Oh, that's hilarious. Thank you, Angela.
Larry, before I put up this next one, I just want to disavow it. And
oh boy. Okay.
Yeah.
You know it's bad. Courtney Howard with a $9.99 super chat. Kevin, you are beautiful. Wink. Heart emoji. Sorry, Kevin's girlfriend. This is me respectfully shooting my shot.
I love my girlfriend very much.
Did you just say you love your girlfriend?
Yes.
Well, that's the kind of word that you use for a fiance or a wife, Kevin.
Be patient.
Are you telling me or the aforementioned girlfriend?
No, I'm talking to you.
Oh, all right. Well, Courtney's cute. Hold on. Go ahead. Put Courtney back up there.
Time to move on.
Sorry, Courtney. I tried. If that's really you. You know, Courtney's like, a 60-year-old fat dude, right? Angela with a $5 super chat. Statute of limitations. How about going back 20 years to fabricate a bookkeeping charge on a former U.S. president? Thank you. Keep going, Debs. You won't sniff a win. I should have done that one, the bookkeeping charge. Instead, I went to the crazy sexual assault fabrication. But you're right, Angela. Exactly. Oh, it's ancient history, says Van Jones. Thank you for the super chat. Answer with another $2 super chat. Texas Dems, who paid for the plane, hotel, and food? Right. I think it was Pritzker or maybe a Soros-funded super PAC or something. Did you see they got into a private jet? They were on a private jet to fly up to Chicago. That could be interpreted as a bribe. Or there is a law that you're not allowed to accept money for refusing to carry out your duties as an elected official. And usually these laws also say money or something of value. And a flight on a private jet is certainly something of value. Thank you, Angela, for that question. Psychological Projection is with a £5 super chat out of the UK. Where's the crime? Why weren't they saying this during the hush money trial? 34 fake felonies for a misdemeanor beyond the statute of limitations. That's right. They literally, in fact, Psychological Projectionists, they literally told the jury in New York that they didn't have the crime. Didn't matter. You guys can come up with whatever crime you want when they were convicting Trump. I know. You're right. You're right. You're right. Thank you. I should have brought that up. How come the audience is better at this than I am? Angela, don't answer that. $2 super chat. Pocahontas, Zoran the moron. There's a winner. Oh my gosh, that's the ticket for 28, except Zoran can't run. He wasn't born in America. But yeah. Thank you for that, Angela. Patricia Franklin, there's a new name. Hello, Patricia. Welcome to the game. £5 super chat. Grandma, get me a beer. Warren lost her marbles a long time ago. Oh my God, that video. I'm going to get me a beer. Oh, I hope she runs again. Dr. Grandma with a $5 super chat. I could not survive on what the government would pay me. I'm a mental health professional. Thank you for being a mental health professional, Dr. Grandma. And yeah, you're right. That's a government funded healthcare. This whole idea, this free healthcare thing is they're going to keep trying to push that, Dr. Grandma. And I hope that you retire before they have any success in trying to push it. Thank you for the super chat. Fannie Willis's booty. I just love that name. $4.99. Man, Dana Bash is looking rough. By the way, great show today, Larry. USA. Amen. And hang loose to you. We didn't show Dana. Oh, it might have been in the montage that we did. Otherwise, the one that we showed was Nicole Wallace, maybe. Fannie Willis Booty with a $9.99 super chat. Don't worry, Larry. These wicked politicians and commies will see their day of wrath from our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen to you for that. In case you didn't realize it, Bible's prophecies are unfolding, so be encouraged. With the U.S. emoji, I'm thinking. Yeah, it's funny. Whenever I talk to people and I give a speech or something like that, I'm available for public addresses and speeches and things like that if you want to reach out on social media. I always, when people get downhearted and they're depressed and they get, really freaked out, I say, guys, listen, I understand things are bad. And guess what? I'm pretty sure at some point things are going to get a lot worse, but it's going to work out in the end. I've read the book. We all know what happens. It's right there. Lou Gunn with a $1.99 super chat. Thank you for that. Word of the week is gerrymandering. Yeah, I love that. People are starting to learn about what gerrymandering is. It's literally a Democrat invention named after a Democrat named Jerry in Massachusetts. I think it was 1809, 1810 when they came up with a district that looked like a monster, and they called it a gerrymander, like a salamander. It's gerrymander. Thank you, Lou Gunn. Appreciate the $1.99. We're having fun with this week's news cycle, that's for sure. And I hope you had fun with today's show. Please like and subscribe it, recommend it to other people, and be a part of what we do every single day. We'll be back next time. In the meantime, my name is Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry.